Palestinian people. One of self-determination, dignity, security, and freedom. This path is available once the deal is struck. For months, people all over the world have called for ceasefire. Now it's time to raise your voices and demand that Hamas come to the table.
Oh, wait.
Agrees to this deal and end this war that they began. Of course, there'll be differences on the specific details that need to be worked out. That's natural. Hamas comes to negotiate, ready to deal. Then Israel negotiations must be given a mandate, the necessary flexibility to close that deal.
Joining us now, retired CIA officer Mark Palmeropoulos. He's NBC News security and intelligence analyst. Mark, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So let's get your reaction to this breaking news from a senior Israeli official who says that he does not quite have the details correct of this proposal, particularly on the idea of moving troops out of Gaza. Do you think, from what we know of this deal, do you think that both sides will eventually take it?
Well, Jonathan, good morning. And I think, President Biden, that was a masterful play on a Friday.
Look at his free lunch.
Israel, when some of them were, the hardline.
And that's why you don't snap it.
Like, see what I mean?
They just keep going. Biden used the weakness. Expert play, masterful gambit, sir. He played the Sabbath
Plunger
card.
target practice.
Giờ nào đang có trong đây chấm bài tương tác hộ em trên live nha. Đang có trong đây chấm bài tương tác hộ em với cả nhà. Giờ nào đang có trong đây chấm bài tương tác hộ em trên live nha. Đang có chấm bài tương tác chút con này lên liền mà A7 em có màu nghệ, A7 nghệ lên đâu. A7 nghệ chút A7 nghệ cho em. Nào chút con này lên liền mà A7.
Coalition do not have access to media. And he put forth a plan, which in essence was the Israeli plan. Now, there's going to be some back and forth. And, you got to remember, Henry Kissinger once said Israel has no foreign policy. In some sense, Biden's move was a reflection of that. But in the end, there might be some back and forth. You also have some Israeli officials over the last several days saying, no, actually, this was what the Israeli negotiating team did put forth. Don't forget that the Israeli negotiating team, along with the war cabinet, was aware of this proposal, but the entire cabinet and the Israeli population were not. So lots of moving parts. I think that the two sides could get together. We've been optimistic before. The last piece on this, and I'll throw this in there, I'm not entirely sure that Bibi Netanyahu has what it takes to do this, but he has a visit to Washington within 8 weeks. There's arrest warrants out for him. But there's a chance for him to kind of reshape his legacy. Will he take this? It really remains to be seen. One tries to be optimistic. At the end of the day, there's
It's kind of crazy that this is a fucking CIA guy, and he's wrong. He doesn't have arrest warrants out. There's an application for an arrest warrant. I don't think it came down yet.
Mama, like, this is fake.
Like, that's a wild mistake.
It's not a snake.
On MSNBC as the fucking
Hey, snowball.
Anyway. Like, it would be cool to follow the letter of the law and show a firm commitment. I would like to see a firm commitment by the United States of America to the rule-based international order. I demand the arrest of this war criminal who's hopefully his application for his arrest will go through, and America will, in an effort of good faith, arrest this man.
There's no other masterful move by the Biden administration. Let's see what happens next. Let's see actually if Hamas
Go.
well.
We'll come back to Hamas in a moment, but staying with President Biden and Netanyahu, it did seem like the president was trying to box in the prime minister here a little bit. We know Netanyahu is taking a lot of pressure from the far-right part of his coalition to not take this deal. And he's certainly got one eye at all times fixed on his own political futures.
I don't get it. Should media not be asking that question more? Be like, why aren't they
Feet out.
recognizing their own Didn't Biden present this as the Israeli deal that Hamas must accept? Kind of confusing. That's the best part about this, though, is that Brandon used the term ceasefire, recognized that it is international pressure at play. He said the entire world is looking for a ceasefire. Now it's time for you to put pressure on your government. And a permanent end to hostilities. It's over. You took the fucking toothpaste out of the tube, baby.
Alright, go!
Israel thought that they could get away with the ambiguity in terms of the hostage negotiations between Phase 1 and Phase 2.
He was in the car for 2 seconds.
Now, obviously, the part of the problem here, the reason why, like, while it is a good thing that Brandon said this, the reason why I think it was a fuck up for him, personally is because, like, I don't think he, I think he miscalculated what Israel would do, and I think this is going to make him look weaker if Israel continues to do Israel shit. And the rest of America and the rest of the world look to what Brandon said, and the lack of enforcement on the Brandon side against Israel shit. That's just gonna make him look really fucking bad.
Tell us a little bit more about the dilemma that Netanyahu faces.
So he has the more extreme members of his coalition who are now threatening to withdraw from the government if the deal collapses. That's Smotrich and Ben Gvir. One of the interesting things will be if does the Israeli opposition actually come to the rescue of Netanyahu. Since if he does take this deal, they'll keep the government afloat only for a short period of time. Kind of lots of moving parts here. But again, there's a fundamental disconnect between some of Netanyahu's numerous statements about finishing Hamas off entirely versus what his negotiating team put forward. Does he use it to risk his own political survival? And I think these are his calculations. Never underestimate him. A lot of us can criticize Netanyahu for good reason, but he is frankly a survivor. And so in the next several days, we'll kind of go forward. One idea, of course, is that he actually okayed this proposal knowing that Hamas, or expecting that Hamas would reject it as well. So lots of moving parts. Netanyahu's legacy is on the line. And again, don't forget, this is in the backdrop of a visit to the United States and an address of Congress in the next 8 weeks, which will be have really profound effects both here in the United States and abroad.
Netanyahu will also get a White House invite when he
Go.
later this summer. So, Mark, tell us about, is there a sense that Hamas will indeed reject this? Address that, and then also just give us the latest as to what the views of Rafah might be.
So, I think a lot of this, when we discuss the proposal, kind of fails to address the notion of would Hamas accept this deal as well, because there's parts of this where it's unclear if it could be an actual full cessation of hostilities. And don't forget that the Biden administration is also, in essence, giving a green light for Israel to go forward with the elimination of Hamas senior leaders. That's a whole separate kind of intelligence, campaign. That Hamas is going to be under incredible pressure from the Qataris. I think what the U.S. is really counting on is for both Qatar and Egypt to bring Hamas to the table on this. But again, Yassin Noor, who in essence is calling the shots, deep underground somewhere in a tunnel in Gaza. What does his legacy want to be? Is he willing to actually call an end to the war as well? So, we shall see. Finally, on Rafah, you have the Israelis, the Americans, and the Egyptians, the Qataris as well, meeting on this. One of the things that certainly the Egyptians want to see is for Rafah to reopen. But I think a lot of this has to do with if Israel and Hamas can come to a deal.
Yeah, a very delicate moment in this conflict. We, of course, will stay on every single detail. We appreciate the insights this morning from retired CIA Officer Mark Palmeropoulos. Mark, thank you again.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support us.
This is actually a really good video. If it's the one I think it is. Is this with David Levy? Yeah, it is. Okay. We'll watch this. I listened to this morning. First train, you last for 6 months. Given the intro.
But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not yet publicly backed it. One of his aides said Israel's agreed to the framework
She should
of the
know
deal,
over the
but
20
no
years I
official
bore these all my
announcement
life.
has been made.
I'm not going to walk.
Two far-right members of the Israeli government, the finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, and National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, have threatened to leave Netanyahu's government if he supports the truce proposal. On Saturday, tens of thousands of Israelis, led by relatives...
Channel 11 poll yesterday from our Israeli chatter. Only 38% of voters favor Gaza.
Good idea.
Up from 46%, while 30% favor Bibi, up from 24%. Meanwhile, Likud is stable at 21 to 22 mandates, whereas Gantz is down at 25 to 27, down from a high of 41. The other one polls at about 69 seats, with 61 needed for a coalition. But it's too divided in such a way that it couldn't form a government either. Why in the ever-living fuck would Bibi destroy his career just when he's bouncing back?
2, 3.
calling on Netanyahu not to sabotage the ceasefire deal.
She should know over the 20 years I bore these all my life.
One of the wildest
I'm not going to walk.
aspects of what Thomas on an Oval was mentioning here is the fact that Benjamin motherfucking Netanyahu's popularity is seemingly bouncing back with every new dead Palestinian child. Israelis are like, you know what? This guy is our guy, actually. Okay? It is fucking insane.
As she scoots away. Oh, terrible idea.
Actually,
Families of hostages protested outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office in Jerusalem and urged him to accept President Biden's peace deal. This is Shay Dickman, whose cousin.
like the more he's fucking up, the more there's like new reporting on, you know, his spokesperson, like telling the fucking hostage families and their negotiators that like you can suck my dick, we're gonna kill all of them or whatever, any number of different things. The more the Israeli society broadly is like, you know what, this is our guy actually.
I'm gonna break my satellite
hostage
radio.
families should suck our dicks.
Is an Israeli hostage in Gaza.
I need to support my government in taking this deal to deal that Netanyahu suggested our Prime Minister that will get all our people back home. We are all here in support for the return of all hostages.
Meanwhile, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer have invited Netanyahu to address a joint session of Congress. Senator Bernie Sanders planned the idea of inviting Netanyahu at a time when the International Criminal Court is seeking his arrest for war crimes. For more, we go to London, where we're joined by Daniel Levy, president of the U.S. Middle East Project, former Israel.
Remember when I said early in October
How are we gonna get
Israel was using the hostages cynically as a broad mandate to genocide Palestinians? And people were like, wow, Hassan, how anti-Semitic of you. Remember all the other commentators that were chirping at me back then? I ask you to revisit some of my early October commentary.
Plunger target practice.
People, even those who I disagree with, and try to understand where I was coming from and how correct I was even back then in comparison to where we're now and what the broader public sentiment is now.
Go.
Israeli peace negotiator under Prime Ministers Ehud Barak and Yitzhak Rabin.
I wrote about this in university, and my professor loved it. He couldn't believe what I was writing, but little did he know I was plagiarizing. What if your professor is a Hassan Abi head?
Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Daniel. If you can start off by laying out what this plan is, the significance of President Biden presenting this plan, and where Netanyahu and Hamas stand.
3, go! AJ went over the top.
Because it's not something you can do, every week.
Silly.
The United States to say, here's the plan. I don't think he's done it at the most propitious moment. I don't know why he's waited this long. But there you have it. He has set out this plan. What he set out was various phases. It's not something particularly new. I think the crucial ingredients were that President Biden seemed to suggest that this is a package which is a permanent, sustainable ceasefire in the context of the current hostilities. That was a crucial missing ingredient. The other thing was he suggested that this is an Israeli proposal.
Do it, Dawson,
Curiously, he then went on, considering he said this was an Israeli proposal, he then went on to outline why this was so advantageous to Israel and why, therefore, Israelis should accept their own proposal. Now, Amy, I'm a strong believer that there is sometimes a place for constructive ambiguity in order to advance something, and sometimes one needs a bit of poetic license. In other words, where he gave the Israeli victory narrative, I don't think that was an accurate reflection of reality, the balance of forces, the balance of power. But if that's what will get us to an end to these horrors, so be it. That's Friday night. We then have an initial Hamas response. We have the foreign minister today visiting Spain telling us that Hamas has viewed this positively. I think for Hamas, what they have suggested is the key is making clear that indeed this is the on-ramp to a permanent ceasefire. We had a couple of strange tweets from the Israeli Prime Minister over the weekend in which he suggested, well,
when talking about how curious the nature of the Israeli proposal is and how it is in direct juxtaposition with how curiously Israel is now saying that they are not in support of their own proposal. I'm noticing a direct juxtaposition here. What the fuck Israel is saying about their own proposal and what they're doing. It's just very odd. I don't know. I can't for the life of me put my finger on it.
only the ministers you referred to, Amy, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, but much of Netanyahu's own Likud party. And just now, appearing before the Israeli Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, Prime Minister Netanyahu, because I think this is important, has said the following. The deal will not stop the fighting.
Hey, babe.
Out here, let's go. This directly contradicts, should he stand by his word, what President Biden said. And so the question now is, do you allow constructive ambiguity, Netanyahu having forcefully rejected this, do you allow that to become duplicity and dishonesty, or do you act differently? The ball is back in President Biden's court.
Smash down!
So, talk about Hamas's response as well. And again, to be clear, what we understand at this point, the first stage proposes a 6-week ceasefire during which the Israeli army would withdraw from the populated area of Gaza. Hostages, including the elderly and women, would be exchanged for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Civilians would also return to all of Gaza. 600 trucks carrying humanitarian aid flooding the enclave daily. And then going on to the second phase where Hamas and Israel would negotiate terms for a permanent end of hostilities. And also, even if Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who was not only charged with but convicted of terrorism,
reiterate something here. Something that my girl Amy's about to mention. I know many of you, prior to October 7, had probably heard me talk about Itamar Ben-Gvir, whether it be in 2021, but certainly in the
almost there. You're so
the
close.
judicial reforms that were going to take
Almost
place
there.
in Israel.
Yes. Oh, wait.
And at that time, I reiterated something to you that is a matter of the record. It's a part of Israeli law that Itamar Ben-Gvir was too nutty and too anti-Palestinian for the Israeli Defense Force. Now, at the time, you probably just kind of listened to it and went, huh. But now that you understand how fucking right-wing the Israeli government and Israeli society is when it comes to Palestinian murder, now reimagine how unimaginably insane it is that the motherfucking Israeli government was like, yeah, dog, you're a little bit too invested. Because maybe you didn't understand how fucking deep that well of hatred went. Pre-October 7, but 8 months after, I think you understand how the broader Israeli society views the actions that have taken place. So now, think about how fucking unimaginably
She should know over the 20 years I bore these all my life. I'm not going to walk.
The Israeli government was like, yeah, dude, you're, you know, you don't want to kill Palestinians, but you want to maybe kill them a little too much. Yeah, it's like David Duke applying for the NYPD.
Citing anti-Palestinian hatred. Even if they were to leave the government, that doesn't necessarily mean that the survivor, Netanyahu, would fall, which has often been said, right? If the other parties came to his support.
Right, so that's a lot to unpack. Let's start where you started with the details of the plan. By the way, the plan has apparently been kept from the Israeli cabinet, not the war cabinet, the war cabinet in which the individuals you mentioned sit. Interesting in and of itself. That plan, there are the details that you mentioned. What exactly will be the parameters of the IDF withdrawing from population centers? We actually get humanitarian assistance in this time. We've had all these fantastical ideas of seaport airdrops. Why do we need to engage in these failed efforts? We knew they would fail because Israel has closed off the land crossings, which is how you get normally the humanitarian assistance, the necessary basics into Gaza. That's one of the reasons that the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has asked the court to issue an arrest warrant against Netanyahu and Gallant on the Israeli side because of the use of starvation as a weapon of war. So you've got what are the details around getting the humanitarian assistance in? What are the details of Palestinian prisoners to be released alongside those Israelis being held in Gaza? That already is a lot that could unravel. But what is, I think, even more crucial is what are the maximum guarantees that can be given that this is not just a 42-day hiatus followed by yet further death, killing, destruction that we still see every day, mass civilian killing events. And that is where I think the heightened tension exists between what appears to be, needs to be put to the test, the position of President Biden and the now clearly articulated position of the Israeli government. So I think that is where the
break my satellite radio.
Because their position, relatively clear and consistent, has been full Israeli withdrawal, full end to the fighting. Now, you know, what exactly is the Hamas response? Well, here we have the Hamas leadership. Quite difficult for that communication to take place, as your listeners can imagine, given the nature of the warfare, the tunnels where people are located. You have a leadership in exile, and so teasing out the final answer might take time, but what Hamas seems to have said is, we want a clear understanding of what is the commitment that phase 1 leads to phase 2 and the content at the end of phase 1 on the Netanyahu side. He now has an equation to deal with. As you said, he could conceivably have a majority in parliament because Gantz's party and Lapid's party have both said they will provide a safety net for Netanyahu if he takes the deal. However, let's be clear, Gantz and Lapid have supported this war throughout. They've had no qualms about any of the violations.
Yeah. The problem with that coalition is that it is like the most Israeli coalition, which means it's destined to fucking fail again.
Seesaw, that seems
like those dudes are salivating at the prospect of fucking dismantling Netanyahu. So for him, it's like, yeah, okay, they protect me now, but tomorrow I'm cooked.
Papa Willie?
Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid are both anti-Netanyahu.
International law that is committed, just so we correctly characterize those folks. But they have said they will offer a safety net for this deal, and that's important. However, that makes Netanyahu dependent on people who want to bring him down, who want him out of power, as well they should as the leaders, putatively, of the opposition. Therefore, if he wants governmental stability, he needs to stick with the original...
And they're both anti-Palestine. Yeah, that is the